to write about. Trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist. Am I worth anything or just discount? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Spending time all alone, sending my songs to the phone, dreaming of a better home, while focused on trying to hone this craft, witchcraft. I hope the brujas let this last. I don't know.
That was great sounds of Watts with Outside on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, EZ BlueZ is in the building. EZ BlueZ, you are better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us again on Behind the Brand?
You know, in life, common sense constantly tells us to not lean towards the art. Common sense tells us we need to make sure that we have the roof over our heads. We need to make sure we have a 401k. Common sense tells us we need to be just like everyone else. And common sense is fun and common sense is beautiful. But when you go against common sense and you push and you fight and you hustle, you can go from a pen and your bedroom to the stage of College Street Music, opening up for one of the biggest icons in hip hop, Rakim. And that's happening on the 18th of November. And our next guest not only is a two-time guest on this very show, so you know he's got incredible stuff to talk about, but this man is also one of the best hustlers and live performers I have seen in hip hop. We are honored. And at this time, we ask you to put your hands together. Not if you're driving, keep driving. 10 to 2. No accidents. Mentally, put your hands together for the amazing Spark Kent. Brother, how you been?
Doing well, man. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Very good, very good. Excited for you.
Thank you, man.
So let's paint a picture for the audience, because, you know, it has been said that some of these bigger venues don't necessarily look at local acts. They don't necessarily care about local acts. But here you are, I'll say on a random Tuesday night, sitting in your car, doing what you need to do, and your phone goes off. And it is the powers that be. And the powers that be for this show happens to be Manic Productions. They hit you up and say, hey, buddy, we want you to open for Rakim. What was that moment like?
It was very surreal. Big shout out to Mark and Hollis for helping me make that all happen. But I honestly, I was in tears because it's I felt like I've been at a certain level with playing certain venues for a very long time, and this is the next step up the ladder for me. So,
and that's very true, and it's something that's very important in this business. You know, is to understand that ladder type of aspect. You know, before you can play the College Street Music halls, you've got to go out there and actually play that's the smaller stuff to get to understand what it is, because, you know, you're never 100% ready for the bigger stages if you've never been on the smaller stages running through the practice aspect of it. You know, off air, you and I were talking about some of the stuff you go through to kind of laser focus your performance. You know, what do you do? You know, is it like a full stretch gear? Are you rocking the CrossFit? Did you join like WWE? What are you doing to make your performance just that next level and College Street ready?
I mean, practice makes perfect, man. Other than that, I do I do yoga. I go to the gym.
There you go.
Practice with a hype man. Having a hype man is incredibly helpful, especially if you're a lyricist, you know.
Now, there's a whole bunch of people who might not know exactly what a hype man is. Can you give a little bit of, you know, a little history lesson of a hype man and you know, the importance for your performance?
I mean, I don't know about history lesson because, to be honest, I'm not sure where that whole thing even originated.
Right.
Probably with like radio DJs, if I had to take a guess. But yeah, it's essentially somebody that, you know, you're close with, friend, whoever, that knows your material.
Right.
So when you're, you know, on stage and emotions are pumping, pressure's building, and, you know, you need to take that breath here and there, that person's there to kind of drop that word for you if need be, and you get yourself a breath, recollect, and go back at it. So
there you go. Yeah, and it helps too, because when you are up there by yourself, and say at College Street where you are raised, you might not be able to feel the audience as much. So having somebody up there to help you kind of grab that extra energy,
right.
because the energy you get from the crowd, the energy you can get from other bandmates and stuff, will help feed that battery for when you start to drag. Because whether your set is 2 minutes long or 45 minutes long, it's still an emotional journey that you're going on. And you actually do that incredibly well. I love throughout your catalog, you have these incredibly emotionally high, emotionally low moments, and also kind of like the party records. Are you looking to put together an emotional journey like that set for the show opening for Arkham, or are you just going to stick with the party records all night long?
I wouldn't say. I'd say it's a little bit of a mix, honestly.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing a couple joints off my debut album, Northern Hospitality, and then I'll be doing a couple of new joints off my new album. So
awesome.
But yeah, I wouldn't say they're all party records.
Okay. Now, just like we ask, and we love to do this question for all artists and parents too. Your songs are like your children. What's your favorite child, and will you be bringing them on the 18th?
Tough to say, honestly, because I think that there's certain artists that'll put out like quantity over quality, so to speak, where it's just like, hey, pump out as many tracks as possible, And I've always kind of been the opposite. I've been more of a quality over quantity. I just try to put 110% into every track, especially with the writing. So,
speaking of quality, what is Jimmy's song?
Yes, Jimmy's song is a tribute track to my father, who passed away a couple years ago. And it's just kind of detailing the whole situation and what that was like. I didn't really know him all that well. I met him for the first time in 13 years when I was like 18.
Wow.
And then in recent years we were like reconnecting a bunch, and just got a phone call one day that he dropped dead. So
oh man.
Yeah, it was a catastrophic brain hemorrhage.
Very disappointing.
Yeah. So but I wrote that song. It's one of the first songs I've ever produced the beat for as well, which is a big step for me. So
how big of he was a supporter of your music? Like when you were reconnecting and talking to him, has he ever heard any of the tracks that you did?
Huge supporter. Supporter. Yeah. When I went down there and I did like a celebration of life for him, and a bunch of his friends and family showed up, and almost every single person would come to me and say, "You don't know how much this man would talk about you and how proud he was of you." And
that's
everybody
awesome.
down there I never met before knew I was a rapper without like,
wow.
That was a little bit of a shock.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you feel the spirit's going to be there with you on the 18th?
I hope so. I was thinking about doing that song, truthfully, but I don't know if it's like too slow and emotional for that.
Okay.
For that atmosphere or not. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. See, I don't know. Part of me says go for it, but because the album that they are celebrating kind of hits on that type of level.
Right.
And again, when you're performing with one of the best lyricists of all time, you definitely want to bring your lyrical A game, and that song, meaning wise, is definitely an A game type of aspect. But then there's that other point: is do you want to really be that vulnerable?
It's more emotional than technical,
Mm-hmm. And it's a matter of being that vulnerable. And I know that's tough, man. I don't like it personally. I hate being vulnerable on stage. I hate being vulnerable in real life. So I'm not a fan. Not a fan at all. It's cool. I'm impervious. That's why
impervious.
Enough about me. Impervious. But as you're kind of like coming up to it, you know, you're about a week away from the show right now. You know, and as you're getting closer, there any particular tricks, you know, you're bringing through there? You know, anything special? Like, you know, you're bringing like a confetti cannon?
Nah. I was thinking about doing something kind of like unique or special, but then like honestly, the more I thought about the show, the more I began to realize like it's not about me. I'm not the star of the show, you know?
Right.
I learned my lesson the hard way, like years and years ago. I did a show at the Middle East in Boston.
Oh man, please tell me that story.
Yeah, so I opened up for a duo by the name of OCD Motion Twist, and they were like pretty popping around the Mac Miller, Asher Roth.
Okay.
You know,
early 2010s.
Yeah, early 2010, 2012, I would say. They were like, I think they were on tour with Chitty Bang at one point.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So anywho, roll up to Boston, and I'm, you know, this young dude. I still got crazy long hair, freaking, and we had a vinyl banner made that had like my artist name and a picture of myself, and it was all done up. It looked pretty cool. But long story short, right before we went on, we had like rolled that and taped it onto the DJ's table so that it was, you know, basically a mini billboard behind me performing, and the people of Cambridge / Boston did not like that. Yeah, and that was like, this is something you learn, you know. The older I've gotten now, the more I've come to respect the situation and respect the opportunity. Even the other people that are on this show, like the first thing I did was check out who they were, listen to their music, and then send them a message like, hey, congrats, like this is huge.
Homework's important.
Yeah, the older you get, the more you kind of realize it's like it's not all a competition. You want to just have fun and show love. So,
speaking of having fun, I see some pictures like online with you in Colorado. Just tell me just how much fun they experienced and how much did you put into that musically? Because that's pretty much what your music is about, like the whole, you know, weed culture and all that. And easy, I apologize. I know you're about to cut, but then some just snipped out.
Yeah, I mean, I love Colorado, honestly. It's like home away from home, you know? We actually did a lot this last trip. We went over to Flagstaff Mountain in Boulder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did some hiking there. We went out to the botanical gardens, which was cool.
Wow.
Yeah, my girlfriend really appreciated that. I did as well, honestly. It was insane how massive their facility is.
So mentally, that experience had to be amazing.
Oh yeah, it was a much needed refresher. Yeah.
Easy. Welcome back, buddy. I know you're fighting with the online demons.
Welcome back.
But you had a question, and I sort of cut off because I saw a little bit of frozenness. But go right ahead, man. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I wasn't cut off at all. Your question was better than mine anyway. But I have a new question. Well, first of all, like when you walked into that place, did like the Willy Wonka theme like play, like "Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination"? Like, did that happen? Like, that's how I envisioned it is going to happen for me.
So I would say like three quarters of their facility is outside, but then the 25% that is inside is basically like a tropical rainforest with like 100-foot ceilings.
Right.
That was that was when the Willy Wonka music was playing.
Well, and that's incredible because you actually also you own this incredible hydroponics store as well, where you get to teach people the proper usage of how to hydroponically grow and move forward. What is it like being in that industry, and what is it like being one of the first in Connecticut to do it legally in that industry?
I mean, it's still all very new to me. Personally, I realize very
early on
that so yeah, realized early on in the process. And I basically was just asking myself, well, I love growing. Like, how can I apply this to other people, teach other people, and still be profitable at the same time? And so I started talking with friends of mine and brainstorming. And eventually we came up with the idea that, you know, I can't grow the product itself, but there's nothing stopping me from selling the systems and teaching people how to use them the correct way.
That is an amazing loophole, and not necessarily even that much of a loophole.
It's really not. It's just
the industry is on its way to being
right.
So
as of next year,
you're getting there.
Yeah.
Next year.
next year, hopefully things will be opening up. But yeah, we just shifted a focus a little bit to genetics as well. So we're opening up this third room to be like 25 different strains from 4 different major companies right now. And then we're going to try to work with locals to get some local New England genetics in there as well.
What's the name of the company again?
It's Deep Water Consultations.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the shop's in Guilford on the main road right across from Palumbo's.
A little generic question. Why the name Deep Water?
So what I learned from the beginning and what I study and personally think is the best out of the different hydroponic formats is deep water culture. So I specialize in recirculating deep water culture, which is the same thing. You're just pushing the water around in a big circle. Okay. So yeah, that's the name stems from that branch of hydroponics.
Gotcha. Just coming from an unknown, I just wanted to get my, the whole math right when it came to that. But easy, you're more into that world. Go right ahead. That's a nice pose of Easy, though. That's a great pose. That's a great photo picture of Easy. Easy, back with us, Betty. That's a great photo picture you got right there. I see the big old smile on your face. Now we're ready to hear you talk. Go right ahead, man.
I'm ready.
All right, beautiful. Well, I hope he's still ready. My God, it's crazy. Oh, my goodness.
He's frozen over there.
Well, no, since the ball's being passed back to me now, Spark, how many names did it take until Spark Kent was the right answer?
Technically, Spark Kent is the third, but
Spark Kent is the third. What were the first two?
Technically, yeah, it was. The first one's hella embarrassing. I was like 8th grade. I went by. I went by like 1 cent.
1 cent. You were 1 cent.
Just one, baby.
Why the name 1 cent? Why not penny? Why 1 cent? I just need to know that. That's very interesting to me. I would never picture that be a first name for you.
Dude, I was just like super duper low class. Like, didn't really have much. I was like, I had to scrounge up money for lunch every day, man. So that was that, and then quickly realized that 1 cent was not it, and then I think I was like 14, 15, I want to say, and was watching ESPN one night. They had a segment on there about this 15-year-old phenom. I had to like quickly look up what phenom was and meant, and told my uncle, and he was like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, that's cool. Okay. And yeah, went by phenom for like, I don't know, 6, 7 years. And then,
wow.
Yeah, 6 years ago, I changed it to Spark Kent.
Wow.
And the Spark Kent name came about because I was selling cars down at Volkswagen. And this old timer who, I swear to God, you ever meet somebody that's like you, but from the future?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have. Crazy.
To a T.
To a T.
To a T. Like, we were like same height, tattoos all over his arms, got gray hair, talking with, crazy accent. And I come out on the lot one day in a bow tie and I come over and he's like, kid, you know who you look like? I was like, who? He goes, you look like Clark Kent. I was like, you know who Clark Kent is? I was like, yeah, I know who Clark Kent is, and then I kind of ran with it after a few days, and yeah,
right.
And it just came to you.
That's it.
From the future.
From the future. Yeah. It's funny. Yo, he used to tell me stories about how he used to be a chauffeur slash like parking lot attendant out in California, and how through doing that met and used to chill with Too Short on a regular basis, like back in like the late 80s, early 90s. Like,
that's when Too Short was doing fun things.
Yeah. Yeah, this dude's a character, man.
But before I get it back to Easy, please tell me, what is Best Buds Booking?
Best Buds Booking is a little side project I got with a DJ friend of mine, goes by the name of Crease.
Okay.
Shout out my buddy Chris. And just longtime friend. And he's more into the electronic side of things, like experimental bass, drum and bass, house. And he's put me onto a whole other world in the last like 6 to 7 years, I would say, since we've been like, living together, hanging out, partying, and go to like festivals and such. And we came together one day and said, why don't we just combine our networks and try to figure out if we could start throwing shows. And did our first show in December of last year at Stella Blues. We had Wax Future out. It's like a 2-piece experimental jam band kind of thing. They're really dope. Keith is an amazing guitarist. And then a couple of weeks ago, we had out Essex, who is an experimental bass producer.
Cool.
We did that show at the Beer, which was sick.
That kind of reminds me of me and Easy Man on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Raised, Elm City made EZ BlueZ is in the building. And I'm dying to hear what you have to say to Spark Kent on Behind the Brand. Go right ahead.
Well, see, I'm gonna do a throwback here. You mentioned you're gonna be opening up a room for genetics. Now, for the average person that doesn't necessarily understand the importance of genetics in the industry, the marijuana industry, or really any industry, what do you mean when you're going to have a whole room for genetics? Are we like building the Hulk? Like, what's going on? Like, tell us about it.
No, so it's just, it's simply just a room, like illuminated shelving and genetics, which is at its most basic, strains. So with cannabis, for those unfamiliar, you have basically a strain is what would give you a different smell, a different flavor. Those are terpenes, but that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
It's as simplified as simple as possible. A strain is like a flavor, if you will. So we're going to be selling different genetics, different seed packs from very reputable companies that people in the industry and community are already well familiar with. And a lot of these, almost all of them are probably going to be feminized as well. Talking with my friends and partners, we quickly realized that a lot of the people that are going to be coming to us are going to be first timers who don't necessarily have the space to sit there and do, a huge hunt and pop 100 different seeds and pick out the best ones, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Not even pick out the best ones, but just differentiate between the males and females, which is a really crucial step if you're doing non-feminized seeds. So with the feminized, they're automatically female from the start, meaning you're going to get what you want. It's not going to be a guessing game. Yeah. It's still going to have different traits for each seed. But that again, all depends on the lineage and the genetics itself.
That's awesome. I love the science behind everything. I think it's so super important because, you need to know these different things. And I'm also a fan of there being a whole, like I look at it as a whole artistic aspect behind something that a lot of people don't look at as an art form. So I love when people can start to break things down a couple of weeks ago, we had the guy from Black Hog, Tyler from Black Hog Brewing on, and that was his second time on. But the first time he was on, he broke into a whole scientific equation on what the difference between like an Oktoberfest and a haze was, and why those things are different and important. So now that we can have that and we can have these open conversations about the new industry, I think it's really important to have, because an educated consumer is a very powerful consumer. So thank you for being able to share a little bit with us today. I'm a fan of that.
Absolutely, man. Like you said, I think it's important to have those, open discussions and that open door policy when it comes to the information side of things. I posted in some Facebook page photos and stuff from my last harvest. It was like growing with LEDs, and the post blew up a little bit more than I thought it would. And I basically told everyone commenting, hey, if you want to reach me, hit me on Instagram. I woke up the next day and I ended up having like a 2-week long conversation with this fella from Italy. And so it just really goes to show like how crazy the information can get from one place to another, and how useful it can be to the community and as a whole,
Well, and that's also why sourcing is extremely important, not to get involved in any of the nonsense that's going on, say, mainstream media wise, but the fact that information can pass so quickly from one person to another, it is extremely important to make sure your facts are on point, to make sure that the information that you have is sourced correctly, because although it might not have backfired for you, it could be devastating to somebody else, and we're always playing that game of telephone, where a little bit more of that information gets broken off with each transaction. So we really, really want to make sure that sourcing and facts are important. They are not alternative. They are important. Now I'll get off my soapbox and let's talk about, are you bringing any of your harvest to the Rakem show on the 18th that you can talk about, because it's legal here?
I will definitely be bringing some for myself.
Yes.
And I will almost certainly try to bring some for Rakim.
Right.
I recently did the same thing for Lil Easy E when I opened up for him. And then just off giving him one, just off the love of music and everything his pops did, we ended up like linking up a couple of days later before he left to go to California. And we just,
there you go.
Yeah. So that was cool. I really appreciate what the mutual love for cannabis is bigger than I think than people think at times,
Being in the cannabis industry for so long, what steps still need to be made? Because there's a lot of fighting when it comes to this, a lot of laws that can protect us. Because Easy and I had interviews in the past where people are fighting to get the right laws set for you guys. So as for you being an employee, just working in the industry, what do you feel needs to be just set automatically down when it comes to doing what you do?
Well, I mean, like I would say off rip, I in no way, shape, or form have been doing this in a crazy long period of time. I wish I could sit here and tell you that I have. I'm just a guy who, put his face in the books and had really, really good success.
You've been a user for a long time. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, definitely a user for a long time.
I've been around it.
That's fair. You know what I'm saying? That's fair. But those laws do still apply to you.
Right. So, I mean, I would say that there's a lot of other people in the scene, especially in Connecticut, who are way bigger of an advocate than I am, and they're way more on the front lines than I am, and I tip my hat to those people.
Right.
But to answer your question the best that I can, I personally don't. I think having the social equity program is important, and I think that giving back to the people that were affected by the war on drugs over the years is important.
Right.
At the same time, I think that there's like a right and a wrong way to go about it. And from my discussions that I have with various people, from what I'm hearing is you're getting people that have millions of dollars behind them. People that are MSOs, big corporations, are essentially swooping in and finding people that fit the criteria for the social equity programs, doing a partnership. And it's for that one single person and their family, that's probably going to be life changing, and I can appreciate that. But from the outside looking in, as someone who, you know, doesn't qualify for the social equity program, even though I'm somebody who's been out here living on their own since 16, like lost both my parents, that doesn't matter, you know? So again, I think that they just need to take a closer look, I think, at where the money's coming and going in terms of those licenses, and kind of like go from there. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that do deserve it, truthfully, and I want to see them do well. But at the same time, I don't want to see a big corporation basically buy them out within a year, 2 years time, and then that's it.
Yeah, no, that's a huge thing, and that's a lot what a lot of people are fighting for and fighting against, you know. And I knew they were making the steps for legalization about 2 years before they did, because they tried to make a law cracking down on craft beers. Yeah, for to take away a little bit more of the independent aspect of it. And I knew that was the law they were going to try to use against the independent growers. So, but luckily people fought up against that, because you can't do that in Connecticut. We live and die by our craft beers. You know what I mean? Like, are you for real?
At the end of the day, though, like, if you're going to legalize something, right? What? And then, like, you don't expect people to grow it at that point. Like, what are you going to kick in every person's door? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. Good luck. Good luck to them.
Yeah, and they need to really step up in there and make sure that you have the ability for generational growth and generational wealth. It isn't just a matter of the people that are stepping in that first time. We want to make sure that, you know, we're not necessarily giving the money and the green light to Walmart, but we want to give the money and the green light to Spark Kent, so he can then be Walmart in 30 to 40 years. You know what I mean? And I think that's where things are starting to get lost in translation. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even look at it from the other perspective too. You know, I'm sure there's people out there like looking at me like, oh, so what? You know, your parents fumbled the bag. You know, my whole family got screwed over for hundreds of years. So it's, I understand both sides of the coin. Like, I really do.
Well, definitely. No, and go ahead.
No, go.
No.
You're on a roll.
It's super important, because I you know, social equity thing is mad, but they need to have those better regulations. They need to have, you know, food. And there are a lot of incredible programs out there. Like, I know for a fact, Method Man is, you know, if you're looking to get involved in it and you're a person of color, he is willing to come in and do that with you, but he's not going to come in, do that, let you build it up and then buy it out in a year and a half. You know, he's going to be able to make sure that there's going to be generational wealth, not only for that person, but for the community all around. You know, one of the big things that just happened recently is President Joe Biden actually gave a federal pardon for all of those that were convicted of federal marijuana charges, except not a lot of people were convicted of federal marijuana charges. It was one of those things that happened as a talking point when we could have done it more on the state level, and actually gotten people out of situations they should not have been in, you know, because people wanted to make money off of a war on drugs, that there was no actually war. We perpetuated them ourselves. But I'm gonna get off my soapbox for a second.
I will say, I would love to see a map, if there is such a thing out there, that shows the U.S. and shows the people with these federal convictions. Because if I was a betting man, I'd tell you a lot of those are probably in the South, man. I hear some crazy nightmare horror stories about people down there with an amount up here that at this point in time you could walk around the street with. But you go down there and it's like you spend the night in jail. You spend the night, depending on how much you have, for a couple years. Like, it's a different animal down there.
Very, very, very interesting. And that's why I do feel that we need legalization on a national level, because of the tax money alone. The tax money alone, bro. Like, Word.
Well, it's like we're a country, and yes, we are separated by states, but how is it that you have something that is perfectly legal here, and then you could take a 2-hour drive, 3-hour drive, whatever, and you're in jail? I don't understand it. Like,
yeah,
maybe it's above my pay grade.
No, it just makes no sense. Absolutely makes no sense. I'm sorry to step on your toes there, Pete.
You did it. I could listen to a whole other show with just you two explaining these views. I was thoroughly entertained, and it was good being a fly on the wall. I was waiting for the climax. It was just building and building and building and building and building up, and then just Preston. I was like, I was waiting. I was waiting. I was anticipating. Spark Kent, what is Northern hospitality?
I always forget the actual word for what it is, but it's a it's a paradox. Is that what I'm thinking? Paradox.
Okay, why is that?
Yes.
So I'm originally from Florida.
Oxymoron.
Spent my childhood,
Oxymoron.
like, I don't know, first 5-6 years of my life in like South Florida, and even after having been down there, again. It's a completely different world, like I was saying. And one of the things that I've realized is when people say Southern hospitality, for people up north, you might not understand or, really grasp that concept.
Yeah.
But like down south, that's as simple as somebody's walking in behind you to a store and you're holding the door open for them. They say thank you.
Yeah.
It's very friendly, very manners. And up here, now that having lived most of my life up here, I don't know, man. I think it's a completely different vibe. Maybe it's the colder weather when people are a little bit more tougher, thick-skinned.
It is a real thick skin living up here. Yes.
Yeah. And so that was when I was coming up for a name for the first album. That was one that I had come up with because I never heard anybody say Northern hospitality. It was just one of those things. And a lot of the stuff that I was talking about was personal stuff on that album. And, So yeah, I mean that's basically where it came from.
How many tracks are on it?
Northern Hospitality has 17 tracks.
Wow.
But 16 of because it took me 5 years to do that project.
Right.
Yeah, I just went through a lot between working full time, losing both my parents, and
a lot of sentimental value, I believe. A lot of sentimental value.
And going through, struggle to get it out. And, but yeah, 16 musical tracks. And then the intro is done by a guy, Nate Goodwin. He's an impersonator. And if you ever need some motivation, go watch his YouTube videos. He does like these motivational ones, but he also does great impersonations. And I needed somebody to do a Morgan Freeman for me for the intro. And
nice.
He nailed it, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
How many tracks didn't make the cut? 17's big for independent artists. That's all I have to say. Usually, as we hear tracks and LPs and albums, there was usually about like 10 tracks tops. You picked a good 16, 17 for it.
I mean, I would say we probably cut like 4 or 5 off of it. But yeah, it was only 17 because I'd already been performing out and about for like 9-10 years. Wow. So I'd felt to myself and to the people that were rocking with me for so long, like, the least I could do is give you like everything I have, or at least all the best of what I have right now.
That's super interesting too, because, we're starting to see an evolution of our industry where we're almost getting back to single bass, where it actually seems to be a more stable marketing process to release a single every couple of months instead of just releasing an album. But here, you also dropped your second record. What was the difference in your marketing strategy between Northern Hospitality and the second record?
So, I mean, I guess I just went into it a little bit differently. I had, like you were saying, my first album was just, I wanted to put out the album to show myself and everybody else, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. this is everything I have. And
Right.
I wanted it to be like so perfect, like as a whole, that I think only like 3 or 4 of the 17 tracks were released like over a period of 4 years.
Right.
And then so for this second project that I'm working on now, I've released 3 or 4 tracks already, and I tried to do one a month, and then kind of took a break for a little while, just so I could focus honestly more on the business. So, but yeah, still writing. I'm probably like 60-70% done with this second album.
Okay.
And it's the first one that I've produced tracks on. So
right. Now, what made you decide to do that? You know, where you're actually investing in the production of the music that accompanies you as well. You know, I know a lot of artists like to just do one or the other, and then there are some that really like to do both. What made you want to jump into that avenue?
I mean, I've been making beats for, I would say, a couple of years. You know, just playing around, having fun with it, trying to learn as much as I can. But I never had the same confidence in my beats that I did in my writing.
Okay.
Like, and people would tell me like, "Oh, this sounds good. Like, what don't you like about it?" And truthfully, like I'd have like a hard drive with like 40, 50 just like loops, like something that sounds real good to like do a verse over. But then I would get stuck in the, I guess you would call it the songwriting process of creating a beat. And it wasn't until recently for Christmas, my girlfriend actually got me this Akai MPK 249. And
nice.
Try to see if I can.
Show and tell.
Nice. Ooh! Oh wow, that is nice.
Yeah. So it's basically got.
Cool.
It's got a 16 key drum pad, like full drum pad up on the top, and then you got a 49 key keyboard. Because I was started to learn how to play piano a little bit, and I wanted to try to incorporate more of that in there, which honestly helped a lot with that whole songwriting block. Because now I'm able to figure out like what would sound good for a hook without not sounding completely different from the verse, you know?
No, it's a lot of stuff that totally helps, and you know, transitions and making sure that you're blending it correctly. It's the same aspects like when you're putting together a good rhyme pattern or a good verse. You've got to make sure your theme is blending correctly. You got to make sure that you're hitting your rhyme patterns correctly, whether it be a syllable rhyme or a hard rhyme at the end, whether you're in ABA or not. There's so much that goes into it that I find it comical when people are like, "Oh, hip hop's, you know, not actually music. You're just a rapper." But you don't understand like what these guys are doing and how much actual thought has to go into all of this. It's so much deeper. Like when we had Sketch the Cataclysm on, you know, he talked about he became an MC,
great MC,
because he wanted to say more. MC. Yeah, phenomenal. But you know, he one, he couldn't sing very well, and 2, he wanted to say more than just what a singer has the ability to say in that 16 bars. You know, and that's something that you do very, very well. You always you make sure that you're hitting the points that are necessary, but the stories in which you tell, I always have that kind of throwback feel for you, where you are more of the storyteller, hip hop artist. Was that just something that was in your personality, or is that what you're continuing to strive to be?
As we listen on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made, EZ BlueZ is in the building. Spark Kent, go right ahead.
Remind me of that question one more time.
No worries. No worries. You know, one of the things that I have noticed about, you know, your writing is you have that storyteller, kind of almost like a throwback type of feel, similar to like a Common or a Rakim, if we're being honest. Is that who you are, or is that who you strive to be?
I think a little bit of both. I think it's just your environment determines a lot about who you're going to be as a person. And I think the same goes for when you're an artist. So a lot of the people that I grew up listening to, I guess you would say, are storytellers. And I think that's just a byproduct of being a lyricist, you know? I think a good lyricist should be able to tell a story.
Right. Now, when you're also, you're telling that story, how does that translate from wax to a live performance?
I mean, I think probably tone is the biggest thing there. Because I remember that was one of the things I struggled with a lot when I first started recording. When you do it live, you have a lot more energy. At least I do. I can't speak for everybody, but so you tend to like raise your voice a little bit more without even realizing it. You know, you're a little bit, the adrenaline's pumping compared to like when you're like in the studio, let's say, and you could be, I would say, more in your head. So it's more of like how you're feeling that day could really determine or impact how that song or that verse is going to sound. Versus when you're live, it's just, I don't want to say the same every time, but it's just the adrenaline. You're riding off of it. So,
well, that's actually a huge point, and it's interesting because you're one of the first people to bring it up, of just how different the studio is and how different that feel can be, you know, and almost sitting in your head or having that intimidation or hearing the engineer go, all right, do that again. Or like having that engineer cut you in the middle of a line and then send you back to the top. And then you build up that frustration. Are there any techniques that you do? Like, do you do a whole bunch of push-ups before you jump on the mic, or, you know, beat on your chest, or do you just go up there and handle your business with, say, the other business you do, and then go out into the booth?
I'd say it really depends on like it depends on the venue. I mean, like the crowd, the show itself. For College Street, I can tell you, I'm definitely not pre-gaming probably as hard as I normally do.
Right.
There's a lot more nerves this time around just because of the size of the venue. Honestly, the artist I'm opening up for and his legendary status.
And when is that again? When will you be at College Street opening for Rakim?
That's going to be next week, November 18th.
That is awesome. And people can still get tickets.
Yeah, people can still get tickets. If you want, hit me up and I can send you the link directly. Perfect.
Now, what advice do you have for that kid sitting with his pen and, you know, how did he get on that show? What advice do you have for that kid right now? Unfortunately, we are wrapping up too. So when you're done with that advice, I want you to drop all the different hashtags and handles that you have and tell them once more where they can see you on the 18th. So please, the floor is yours.
My best advice would probably be to be yourself. Don't be afraid to have fun, and value the connections and the people that you meet along the way on the journey, because you never know who might be there to extend a hand to help you. So, and that's honestly, I did shows at Toads for 10 years and it's like my second home. My home away from home when I'm not in the studio here. I have a lot of love for that place. The people that book the shows there, specifically Hollis. And yeah, I just reached out to her and said, hey, I see Rakim's coming through. Do you know anybody that does the booking for College Street? And lucky enough, she has a relationship with Mark. And I had submitted my music, and within a couple days' time, they accepted it. And that felt amazing. Cried tears of happiness, for real.
That's awesome. So now where can people get in touch with you, and how can they find you on all the wonderful, social medias? Oh boy.
Drum roll.
Kent.com.
Oh, one more time. One more time, because you're just frozen.
Yeah, one more
time. Absolutely.
So if the people want to reach me or listen to my music, read up, anything, you can hit me at sparkkent.com. That's got everything that you possibly want on there. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
That's perfect. And where are you going to be on this coming Thursday, the 18th of November? that what
I'm
it is?
going to be opening up
Friday.
for hip-hop. Going to be opening up for hip-hop legend Rakim at College Street Music Hall Friday, November 18th. Gotta be there. It's going to be one of the best hip-hop shows of the year for Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. It's been an honor and a privilege, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. We look forward to seeing you at College Street on the 18th of November. Thank Mark and Hollis. Thank you guys so much. And anything else?
Appreciate you on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. This has been Behind the Brand. Thank you, Spark.
Thank you guys for having me.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just discount? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Spending time all alone, sending my songs to the phone, dreaming of a better home while focused on trying to hone this craft, witchcraft. I hope the brujas let this last.
I don't know if the earth is spinning.